This type of Yerushalmi Shekalim, the article Oz edition where Mamash the top of Chab Zayin Amud Aleph, the middle of the Mishnah, Mosar Truma, which in the Vilna Yerushalmi is on Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, and in the Vilna Bavli Yerushalmi is on Daf Yud Amud Beis, the 10th line down. Mosar Truma. So Mosar Truma means after you finish the Truma Salishka from one fiscal year, which means Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the following year when you had to take from the new Truma, what was left in the Truma Salishka from the last time you were Torah mit. Anything left at the end of the year. So what do they do with it? That was actually intended to be karbanos. Now it's not being used for karbanos. So what do they do with it? They used to make golden panels. Tzipu the base Kodesh Kodashim, which they would use to panel the Kodesh HaKodashim. Okay, that's the Mosar Truma. What about Mosar Peros? What do we do with the Mosar Peros? So everybody here says Mefarish b'Gemara. We'll find out what Mosar Peros are when we get to the Gemara. So the article also say Lashon Mosar Peros? I don't think so. It says Gemara. He just brings down further on from the top. Have a difference of opinion. What was this Mosar Peros? Since it's machlokas, we'll leave it to when we get there, which is Mir Tashem tomorrow. So whatever Mosar Peros was, Rabbi Shmuel says kayitz mizbech. That's left, or they used it to buy extra karbanos for Mizbech. When Mizbech was idle, they would bring these extra karbanos from the Mosar Peros. Mosar Truma l'klei sharis. He says that he says the Mosar Truma would not go to Rikui Pachim Tzipul Mizbech, but it would go to it would go to make klei sharis. To whatever Kalim Beis Hamikdash needed to have. The Pnei Moshe brings down a pasuk from the Bavli. He says, "The Mosar Truma Sil Rabbi Shmuel Shulei Knos Mimenu Klei Sharis Atzichim Soich LeAkra." Those are pasuk. This is Divrei Yomim. The Chalosam He Vil Lifnei Hamelech Yoyada. When they finished, they brought up in front of the king, and Yoyada was Kohen Gadol. The Sharkes the rest of the money, but Yasu came to Beis Hashem. They came for the house of a Kosh Baruch Hu Klei Sharis. What's left over that they shar hakesef that have a omer zeh Truma Salishka. That's the Truma Salishka, and they use it for klei sharis. A kimmer Mosar Truma, leftover Truma, is kayitz mizbech. It's used in order to adorn the mizbech with these extra karbanos. The Mosar Nesachim, klei sharis, left over from Nesachim, that comes to klei sharis. And here the Pnei Moshe also explains the most of the Sachim Klisharis Eitzim most of the Sachim the Kohadit Nam Sof HaPerak Achas L'Shoshi Yom Mar Shan Salishka. Once every 3 days you assess the Lishka. Sheposkin Es Hashar the Hamamuna on the Sachim, the person who's in charge of the Sachim sets the price. Le'enus Yishmani Chen L'Slosos. And so too for flour, wine, oil, and flour. This is the price for the next 30 days. If the price goes up in the next 30 days, so then the supplier has to go according to the price which was set, even though it's lower. But if the price goes down, still then they go, hektish goes by a lower price. That hektish shalyana, price goes up. They pay the lower price for assessed. The price goes down. They pay the lower price, which actually took place. And if the price goes lower and hektish makes a profit on this, that's called most of the sachim. That goes to klei sharis, according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Chinas Kana Konim Omer most of the sachim kaitzim mizbech. Says the excess of the Sachim goes for Kaitz and Mizbech, and the Pnei Moshe explains because the Sachim completely libated on the Mizbech, and the Olos for Kaitz also completely on the top of the Mizbech, so therefore it's an appropriate usage for them. Mosar Truma l'klei sharis. The excess of Truma, that goes for klei sharis. V'zeh lo modim Peros, and both of them do not agree with the idea of Mosar Peros, which again we haven't defined. Mara is going to explain it, but that, whatever it is, they don't agree with Rabbi Shmuel about this idea of Mosar Peros. Okay. It says, uh, yeah, maybe I should give it away. What most bear says now, let's leave it. Okay. I'm feeling guilty about it. I will say that according to the one interpretation of the Gemara there, it's something which we already learned. Those are pairs which we know that the other um, Tanoim were not happy with, which is that earlier in the Mishnah, we said yesterday, the end of the day yesterday, that most assured looking yena shmonim uslosos has sarai lehekdesh divrei Rabbi Shmuel. So that they say is most arperos. And Akiva Omer, of course, he said no, there's no such thing as most arperos. We don't use hekdesh money to generate income to make more money. So that according to one opinion of Gemara, that is what most arperos is. And of course, it's just like Rabbi Kiva is not more than only a Mishnah that there's such a thing because you don't use excess money to make more money from Hekdesh. Rabbi would also not concede that point. Okay, it says Gemara, part of the story. So we said there was, beginning of the Mishnah yesterday, there's a Lashon shows a Horace in 3 places, and the concept of various different funds. So Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman Mishem Rabbi Yehuda said Shalosh Lashonim. There are 3 Lashonos. Shows Sawyer. One which is brought for Soil Azazel, so it had to be divided, right? Half of it was left in the base. Mikdash half was put on the head of the Sawyer. So Basela. It was of medium expense. Because it had to cost a seller, so you could divide it too. Mitzora, that which is it was burned together with his birds. It wasn't birds. He was used for sprinkling. He would take 8 eras, Azov, and Shnito Las, and in a bundle, and dip them into the blood of the shechted bird, and sprinkle them on the Mitzvah to be Matar him, and Vayikra Yud Daled Zayin. So that was it could just be minimal, whatever short string would fit into that bundle. But so part of it stays for him, and one for Parah Aduma, which was she had to make sure it got burnt together, and I guess it was light, it would maybe flutter away. So it was the most expensive. It was 2 sloim, so it would have some substance, some weight. The Ras Chavron and Barzav the Shem Shimon Shachtas said so Parah b'shtei sloim u'mechza. The one for Para was 2.5 worth 2.5 sloim. So I guess we felt that was the proper weight in order to make it properly, ensure that it got burnt up properly in the fire. The article, who by the way says that the minimum of a shekel for the Taz Mitzvah is, Rambam says, Moshe Sinai, Aleph. He says that the brings down here from Rashi to that. From Yuma Malaf, I guess it says that from the words El Toch we learn that the thread has to sink deep El Toch, so that says a heavy substance to sink deeply into the fire. So evidently that's why according to this one Mandamar, required to have even heavier. Shtesa Mechta. East of Mafkin Lisha Basar Zuz, there's some who said the use language of 10 Zuz, which is the same as 2.5 Sloim. I guess the issue was Chaybon and Mashanas B'Loshem Rabo. Somebody had heard from his Rebbe 10 Zuz, so therefore they said 10 Zuz as well. But it's the same language, same shear. 10 Zuz is 2.5 Sloim. So I see the article has that reasoning from the Ras Sulio. Know some talking Chadatin? I know some talking Chadatin. No. Okay, maybe the Ras Sulio says it. Anyway, I think it's a double pashut. Okay, once we're on the topic of using stuff from the Chuma, so we say that all sorts of ongoing needs of the Beis Hamikdash came from these various sources. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Shmuel said, Tamir Chachamim Lam Yitzchayim Hilchos Shchita, the Tamir Chachamim who would teach the Kohanim the halachos of Shchita, Hilchos Kabbalah, halachos Kabbalah Sadam, Hilchos Zrika, halachos Zrika Sadam. The word, obviously, The Talmidei Chachamim were the ones who taught the Kohanim, even though the Kohanim were the ones that executed. That had to be taught by somebody. Their payment comes from Trumas Halishka. So the whatever they are paid, as the article points out, it has to be a schar batala, right? That's based on whatever you paid teachers of Torah. But in any event, they would have pay them, and some way they would have to, of course, do it in a way in which they wouldn't just pay them straight with the most hektish. And of course, we learned before yesterday how you would do b'machalo the money when it came to the Shomrei Sfichas, etc., and that would work there. But here, of course, there was nothing of substance to which they could machal it, so they had to find some other way to do it. But he brings down here in the article that Tosfos in Me'ilah says that they did lay based in Masna. That's stipulated ahead of time that they could take some of it and make it chulin for the purpose of paying the malamdim. So a similar thing was true about the Yitzhak Diva, which Rabbi Yanis and Bakri Mume Kotchim. People used to check the Mume in the Beis HaMikdash. Also were doing Melechas HaKodesh, and also were Nerdas Chum Chumas Alishka. Bacha by Tanchum Mechia B'Shem Misilah said, "B'gi Sefer Azor, the Seifrim who checked the Sefer in the Azora, the Sefer Torah which was in the Azora, which was the Kohen Gadol used to read from Yom Kippur, and the king used to read from the by Hakel. So it's part and parcel of the Avodah Beis HaMikdash, the ongoing needs of Beis HaMikdash. So Noidlim Schar Michumas Alishka, they also would take their reward from the Chumas Alishka. I think that something we have to say anything else about that. Says Gemara, Gidu Bar Binyamin B'Shem Rabbi Yossi said, Shnei Dayanim Gezelos, the two Dayanim of Gezelos in Yerushalayim. They would be in charge of making takonos to ensure that theft did not take place in Yerushalayim. There's a gear, so therefore in the Bavli, Shnei Dayanim Gezelos, not Gezelos, it's two different gears, but the idea is the same. They would make the Gezelos on the Gazlanim. So they would also be Neitas Chaim Chumas Halishka. And the law and order in Yerushalayim was part and parcel of the responsibility of Hektish. Fascinating thing. So the article brings down a bunch of interpretations that how it's connected to the Beis HaMikdash directly, because they were down the people who were over the Beis HaMikdash, like Kohanim who messed up, it's a Ravid, or there's to say that they prevented stolen objects from being used for a carbon, that's a Chazon Ish. But it was a different shot from Mishnah Elio that they really had nothing to do with the Beis HaMikdash, but since they had no source of parnasa, so they based in stipulated come from the Chumas Alishka. But I think that, like I said before, the Beis HaMikdash evidently had a jurisdiction over Yerushalayim to make sure things were done properly there. Obviously, as they were, people came to Yerushalayim came for the birth of the Beis HaMikdash, so there was some sort of reciprocal obligation based on Mikdash to Yerushalayim, so therefore it was appropriate to pay the Dayanim Gezelos from the funds of the Chumas Alishka. The woman who would parochos, the woman who would weave the parochos, they would take their payment from the Chumas Alishka. Obviously, again, this is a need for the Beis HaMikdash. Rav Chuna Amar, no, Michumas Berek HaBais. The Berek HaBais was ongoing expense for the Berek HaBais, so why would they take it from the Beis HaMikdash itself? So we go from the Berek HaBais. Now, this is there were probably more parochos in the Beis HaMikdash than this one. We're probably talking about. Chaim says that the parochos, which was specifically between the Heichal and Kodesh Kodashim. So, and then it's really essential for the Avodah, because they did, spilling of the blood on this parochos. So the towards the parochas. So, but in any event, so Gemara says ma polik is there. What's the machlokas? Well, actually, it's not here. It's not bitmiya. Normally, ma polik is bitmiya here, but to be here, it's really what's the machlokas? Ma polik, like ma plukta. What's the machlokas? So Shmuel over like a korban. So Shmuel says it's like a korban, and eventually because it's part of the necessary for the avodah. But there's another gears here, which is kekalim, which is the gears of the Gra and of the Takin Chadatin. Of course, that he says, Takin Chadatin says, of the Kekalim to Tanya B'Shmo, Klei Shar is Barim B'Chumas Halishka, is it's Klei Sharis. V'lo Gersin K'Korban. The Hill says, the gears of Korban is not correct. The Kekalim established, most of the Korban. It says more like Kekalim, like Korban. I've got the Korban Nami Asim Chumas Halishka, even though Chumas Halishka is more like Kalim. So the Gro's Girsa is Kalim. But like I said, it could be that because they had to sprinkle blood towards the parocha, so therefore it's like a part and parcel of it is a Korbanos. This article goes to the Girsa of Kalim, does actually he brings down this shot from the Talmid Rashbash, and Bnei Zaki, that the Chatos, the Panimios, so the Parah would say Yom Kippurim, and Parah and Davar Shel Tzibor, and Parah Mashiach, and Seirei Avodah Zarah Shel Tzibor, all those have to be sprinkled towards the parochas. So that would make it part and parcel of the needs of korban. So Shmuel Avid like a korban or kekalim, Rav Huna Avid like a binyan. It's part of the structure of the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. Rabbi Chizka said, Tana Rabbi Yehuda to an Brisa, Grogros hakatoris. That's what it looks like, but that's a very strange thing. What is a Grogros hakatoris? So the Takin Chadatin has a girsa here, Rabbi Yehuda bar Grogros. And the Bnei Moshe also has, although he doesn't change the girsa, Tana Rabbi Yehuda Grogros. Okay, so this is his name. So it wasn't Grogros hakatoris, but rather Rabbi Yehuda Grogros. Okay. Haktores, so Rabbi Grogres said, Haktores, v'chol korbanos hatzibor, the Ktores, which of course was a form of a korban, and all the korbanos here, by me Chumas Halishka. They come from the Chumas Halishka, which of course makes sense. That's not the Chiddush part of his statement. The Chiddush is in the next part of the statement, and here we're going to have a Girsa issue, so come to it in a moment. So first he says, Mizbach Hazav, B'chol Klei Shar is buried most of the Netzachim. The Mizbach Hazav, which comes for the Ktores, and the Klei Shars come from most of the Netzachim, and that one the Farshim say, well, that will be explained later on in the parak, like the Carbonated says, the Kaman, and the article is going to be Chav Ches and Beis, so tomorrow's about Before Shema, most of the Netzachim. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. Mizbach Ha'olah. Now, the next thing, Mizbach Ha'olah, of course, the main Mizbach in the outer courtyard, and the Heichal, construction Heichal, and Nazaros, by Misharei Elishka. They come from Misharei Elishka, whatever's left over at the end, which is used for the Azoros, and it was used for Yerushalmi, the construction of Omoseh, Migloseh. So also the Mizbach Ha'olah and Heichal and Nazaros. So the Gra changes this to Berek HaBais, because it seems to be that to be more certainly more reasonable, to say Berek HaBais. So, but he has a slightly different girsa here. Mizbach Ha'olah v'Heichal Azoros boy mi Berek HaBais, and Chutz LaZaros boy mi Sharei Alishka. So he changes the next line, right? Chutz LaZaros boy mi Lishkas Berek HaBais. That he changes to Sharei Lishka, which of course would be part and parcel of Yerushalayim. It's interesting that the Ruchaim does not change the girsa here. He leaves it intact. Okay? The Pasha seems to be that you should change the girsa. Now, Takin Chadatin, he goes to the growth girsa. He says, first of all, Mizbach Hazav, he says, why is that the Kli Shor? Shu Kli v'lo binyan, shu chali tatel, chen yidon kli. So maybe the Kli Shor is going to come from the Mizbach Hazav, it's going to come on from because it's not built in. Mizbach Ha'olah shu binyan ba mikot she Berek HaBais. Right? Chutz LaZaros is going to come and say, by Shiarim and Yisharim and Yisarim and Lishka, they come from whatever's left over in the Lishka. So says Gemara on that which Rabbi Yehuda Grogros just taught us. Um, uh, Rabbi Yehuda Grogros come again. I want to mention something about him when we get up to the second time. So the Gemara says, "Vatani avnei mizbeach, the stones in mizbeach, hahecha v'azoros, and the parts, hahecha parts of azoros, molim b'hem. There's meal on them." Now here to the gross gears is important. Instead of avnei mizbeach, because avnei mizbeach is pashut, there's meal. So he changed it to avnei Yerushalmi. And the Tanakh as well. Vatani. Yerushalayim molim b'hem zevade chutz la'azoros. It's certainly outside the azora because she'echesh mila b'shirayim. That's a mila b'shirayim. So the answer we've been answered this before. But we're asked again. Chiesh mila b'shirayim is a mila shayim elokray mer. It's like mer we've had previously in the Masechta that says the Reimer Amar molim b'shirayim. The moil in the shirayim. Says we're not very big chiddush even going to mer. Says only evidently says meaning Shiraim during the fiscal year during which the Shiraim are still relevant to the carbon stipend, which are brought from the totality of that collected money. But here, where we're talking about Me'il and Avnei Yerushalayim, presumably it's for eternity, right? So, right here we're talking about after the year of the ensuing fiscal year. I don't know if that's the right term. The fiscal year of that Shiraim. So we have the question: how can it be? How can it be Me'ila by Avnei Yerushalayim and if they're according to if they come to Shara Lishka. So the Heichad Azaros, I understand, because they come from the Kodesh Ben Habayis. Okay, but again, according to the Gross Girsa, but Avnei Yerushalayim is difficult. We don't change the Girsa, and Reb Chaim, as I think I mentioned, doesn't change the Girsa. And the question is not from Avnei Yerushalayim, but the question is from the Azoros and Heicha, which Rabbi Yehuda ben Grogros had said it comes from the according to the Girsa and the Gemara in front of us comes to Shor Lishka. How could there be Shiraya, the Mila, and then the whole Shach V'Tayah is the same, just not going to Avnei Yerushalayim, going on the Azoros and the Heicha and Azoros. Okay, but in any event, we went to Gilbert the Gra. Says the Gemara, going further. A new statement of Rabbi Yehuda ben Grogros. Rabbi Chizkiah Tana Rabbi Yehuda ben Grogros. Now it's interesting. So the Offer Yerushalayim brings down from Reuven Margolius, even though he didn't have the sefer. He wrote this down that the really Grogros is Gregory. He doesn't. I don't know actually where it writes the word Gregory, but something along those lines. No, sorry, that's a different one. No, it's a different. No, from the Aruch. Sorry, the Aruch says Grogros is a Kinu Yevani Yehuda. I don't know how Gregory became Yehuda's Yehuda. I looked up what Gregory is. Gregory means watchful or a shepherd. So perhaps because Yehuda was shepherding a sheep in the Torah, so therefore Yehuda and Gregory are related. But I didn't see anybody else who makes that connection. Then he says, could be that it's this Rabbi Yehuda ben Grogros is Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim, who appears several places in Shas. The one who famously got Rishim by Chai in trouble, hopefully inadvertently. But that was Nepal Gashal Tzamos when Rabbi Shimon Chai saw him after they came out of the cave. And then there's the Girsa Reb Chaim is Rabbi Yehuda Godos, and he says maybe it came from a place called Chor Hagid God. So in any event, having the shulchan and the menorah and the mizbachos and the parochos maklis hakarban divrei meir, which goes very well with the gears we had before carbon, right? But in any event, these things are ma'akibus hakarban. They're impediment for the carbon to be valid or parts of the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. Their presence is part of the avodah divrei meir. He says, no, the only thing which is makir avoda, other than the kelim which are essential for that avoda, is the kior and kan. So presumably, like the Bnei Moshe says, and kior ben omed mizbech l'chsim nei l'chsim that's ben omed mizbech. They should tzoshu shom l'kiddush adayim raglayim mikoyim. So it's not really even that they're makir, but say you need them for kiddush yadayim raglayim, and therefore that's by definition you need to have them there. So the but the Gra has a very, very different Girsa here, and I don't think that Reb Chaim changes the Girsa. Reb Chaim Shekalim seems to be a much earlier version than the other ones. He does very different in what he does here than he does the rest. Far few changes in Girsa, and Perushim is somewhat longer. And I wonder when Reb Chaim wrote this relative to the other beer, parts of the beer. So the but again he's just says Kiyon and Ken. But like I said, the Gra has Kharkov and Keren. The Kharkov and Keren are parts of the Mizbeach, as the Tagan says Isa Kharkov East. The Soviet, some say it's Soviet, which around the middle of the Mizbeach. Ksibe HaMizbeach, Ksibe HaMizbeach. There's a hay and HaMizbeach Lakev. All parts of Mizbeach, all even the things which are not necessary because you're making on top of Mizbeach, not in the Soviet, they're also part of it. Achimash HaMizbeach, Zeh Mizbeach Asu Kain. Rabban Sfile Zehu Akiu. Rabban hold it's not the Soviet, which is like a ledge around the Mizbeach, but it was a carvings inside the Mizbeach. Kernami, the Karen we includes part of this Exi about Kronos Mizbeach. Only Mizolim Perakachim that the Kronos are essential to the kapara of the Mizbeach. So the again the article here does go with the change gears, so like the Gra. So the Gemara is going to say on this statement that this is not necessarily the case. That we're going to say that we have difference of opinion on this the topic, but it's already a long day today. So and we got the Chav Zayin on the base at the bottom. It's like a Pesachim day, so we'll stop here. Pick up the issue tomorrow.